Ali Baba and the 40 Thieves in a distant city in Persia. There lived two brothers, Qasim and Ali Baba. While Qasim was a wealthy merchant, enjoying a life of luxury, Ali Baba was a humble woodcutter who worked tirelessly each day to provide for his wife and son. One afternoon, while deep in the forest cutting wood, Ali Baba noticed a cloud of dust rising in the distance. Sensing potential danger, he abandoned his work and swiftly climbed a large, dense tree. He watched as a group of horsemen thundered into the clearing below. They were a rough-looking group, armed with swords and daggers, clearly not ordinary travelers. The man who appeared to be their leader, distinguished by his finer clothing and commanding presence, he stood before it, and in a loud, clear voice that echoed through the quiet forest. To Ali Baba's utter astonishment, a section of the rock wall began to grind and slide away, revealing a dark opening that looked like the entrance to a cave. Laden with what appeared to be heavy sacks, into the mysterious passage. Once the last man had disappeared inside, the heavy stone door slid shut behind them, his heart pounding with a mixture of fear and wonder at the incredible sight he had just witnessed. With a final look around, the 40 men mounted their horses and rode away. Once the sound of hoofbeats had faded completely, Ali Baba, his curiosity overwhelming his fear, cautiously climbed down from the tree. He crept towards the sheer rock wall that had so magically opened and closed. Gathering his courage, he stood exactly where the robber chief had stood and, in a voice trembling with anticipation, he recited the magic words, "Open sesame." The cave was not a dark, damp cavern, but a vast chamber illuminated by an opening high above. It was filled beyond imagination with treasures of every kind. He saw glittering piles of gold coins, chests overflowing with silver, cascades of precious jewels, magnificent bolts of silk and brocade. Ali Baba quickly loaded his 3 donkeys with as many bags of gold coins as they could carry, carefully covering them with firewood to conceal his newfound wealth. Upon his arrival, he excitedly ushered his wife into a private room and emptied the sacks of gold onto the floor. She gasped in amazement, unable to believe her eyes. Ali Baba recounted the entire adventure, from hiding in the tree to discovering the magical cave. "This must remain our secret, or our lives will be in danger. I will borrow a measuring scale from your brother's wife to see how much we have." Despite Ali Baba's protests, she hurried over to Qasim's house, wondered why her poor sister-in-law would suddenly need a scale for measuring grain. To satisfy her curiosity, she secretly applied a small amount of soot to the bottom of the measuring bowl. Unbeknownst to her, a single gold coin had become stuck to the greasy residue in the bowl. When Qasim's wife discovered the gold piece, she was consumed with envy and anger. She immediately showed it to her husband. Furious and jealous, Qasim stormed over to Ali Baba's house. "You pretend to be impoverished while you are weighing pieces of gold. Where did you get this fortune?" Cornered and seeing no other choice, Ali Baba confessed the truth, revealing the secret of the cave and the magic words. "We can go together and share the treasure, brother," Ali Baba proposed. But Qasim's greed knew no bounds. Deceiving Ali Baba, he secretly memorized the directions and, early the next morning, Qasim found the rock wall without any trouble and, using the magic phrase, entered the cave. The sight of the boundless treasure made him ecstatic. However, when he was ready to leave, his mind, clouded by avarice, went blank. He could not remember the magic words. He tried every combination of grains and spells he could think of. A little later, the 40 thieves returned to their hideout. When they found the door wouldn't open to their command, they knew someone was inside. They drew their swords, and as soon as they forced the door open and found the terrified Qasim, they killed him without a moment's hesitation. That night, when Qasim did not return home, his wife grew frantic with worry. As soon as dawn broke, he went to the cave to search for his brother. Upon entering, he was met with a gruesome sight: Qasim's body, dismembered and placed just inside the entrance as a warning to any other intruders. Place them on his donkey and return to the city under the cover of darkness. Arriving at Qasim's house, Ali Baba went directly to the clever and resourceful maidservant, Morgiana. He knew he could trust her loyalty and intelligence. Morgiana, he said in a low voice, no one must know the true manner of Qasim's death. We must make it seem as though he died from a sudden illness in his own bed. Can you devise a plan? She went to an old apothecary, pretending Qasim was gravely ill and requesting powerful medicines. The next day, she returned, her face filled with sorrow, to announce his passing. She then found a discreet tailor and, blindfolding him, led him to the house to stitch Qasim's body back together. Following the funeral, Ali Baba, now the sole heir to his brother's wealth and business, moved into Qasim's house, taking Morgiana and the rest of the household under his protection. Meanwhile, when the robbers returned to their cave and discovered that Qasim's body was gone, they were enraged, leaving one filled with oil but instructing his men to hide, one inside each of the other jars. He then loaded the jars onto mules and, disguising himself as an oil merchant traveling from afar, made his way to the city. He stopped outside and knocked, asking for shelter for the night. The chief's plan was simple. Once the household was asleep, he would give a signal, and his men would emerge from the jars to kill everyone inside. She noticed that her own oil lamp was running low and there was no spare oil in the house. She decided to take a small amount from one of the jars. Morgiana, instantly grasping the terrifying situation, kept her composure. Confirming that 39 of the jars held not oil, she poured a measure of the scalding oil into each of the 39 jars. Later that night, the robber chief crept into the courtyard to signal his men. When he received no response, he investigated the jars. Filled with rage and fear, he fled into the night. The robber chief, however, was consumed by a desire for revenge. He established himself in the city as a respectable merchant, who was now running the family business. Through this connection, the chief, under his false identity, he graciously accepted the invitation but made a peculiar request. But please know that as a personal vow, I never eat salt with my food. According to ancient custom, sharing salt with someone was a symbol of friendship and trust. When Morgiana, who was overseeing the preparations for the meal, when he arrived, she caught a glimpse of his face and, despite his disguise, recognized him instantly as the false oil merchant and robber chieftain. After the meal, she changed into the costume of a dancer, adorning herself with a belt that held a gleaming dagger. She performed a captivating dance for Ali Baba and his guest. In a final, swift movement, as she danced close to the guest of honor, Ali Baba was horrified at first, but Morgiana quickly revealed the man's true identity and his hidden weapon, explaining how his refusal of salt had exposed him as an enemy. When Ali Baba understood that Morgiana had saved his life for a third time, as a reward for her unwavering loyalty, bravery, and intelligence, he offered her the highest honor he could bestow. "You have been the guardian of my family," he declared. He gave her his blessing to marry his son, a union that brought great joy to them all, as they had long been fond of one another. Ali Baba, now free from the threat of the thieves. And the secret was passed down through his family from generation to generation, and so Ali Baba and his family, protected by the courage of Morgiana, lived out the rest of their days in peace, prosperity, and happiness.